Everybody, welcome to another Dietitian Talk. We are live here answering questions, but the overarching theme is going to be immune health, right? 'Tis the season to get a cold. And so from different perspectives, from our dietitians who specialize in eating disorder, women's health, breast cancer, gut health, metabolic health, we're here to answer questions on immune health, talk about immune health, and all those wonderful things regarding immune health. I'm James Marin, Integrative Registered Dietitian, Environmental Nutritionist.
I'm Delia Marin, Integrative Gut Health Dietitian. We're excited to be joined by three of our amazing dietitians on our team, and we'll let them introduce themselves and who they specialize in seeing in case you're ever looking for a dietitian. We see Joseph first. So Joseph, we'd love to get your quick intro.
Thank you, Dahlia. My name is Joseph Barloni, registered dietitian, and I specialize in eating disorders.
Great. Vicki, we'd love to hear from you.
My name is Vicky Schemer. I'm registered dietitian nutritionist, and I specialize in insulin resistance, diabetes, weight management, and other metabolic issues that some people may run into.
Love it. And finally, we have Katie.
Hi, everyone. My name is Katie. I'm a registered dietitian. I'm also a PhD student with a research focus on breast cancer treatment as well as cancer prevention. And I focus primarily on women's health as well as cancer.
Love it. So this idea of immune health. So I know we've had some colds recently, in our family, and it's, and we kind of accept it. We know that there's the virome as far as like our gut microbiome, the virome. There's so many factors to this, right? Like your vitamin levels, your mineral levels. So I mean, there's so much we can discuss. There's so many angles to this. Who wants to kind of kick it off? Does anyone have anything pressing on their mind or like when it comes to immune health?
I love these chats because it gives us all an opportunity to bring in our perspective from our specialty. So I always love to share that about 70% of our immune cells live and reside within our gut. So we have something called our gut-associated lymphoid tissue. And our immune system really, really thrives in, on, and around this, what's called GALT. So what you put in your gut is going to interact with your immune system. What goes around your body can certainly interact with your gut and your immune system. So for me, coming from a gut health perspective, I think that's always something so important to consider because we do know at this time of the year, we're inhaling through our nose more virus or bacteria or other types of microbes, and then they ultimately get swallowed down and they interact with different parts of our body, including our gut. We know that right now, not only is there more out there, but there's often more out there because of a few factors. We find that weather is changing. So people's vitamin D levels might be dropping a little bit more. The sun is not out and about as much as we loved it to be in summer now that it's fall turning into winter. So people might need a little bit of extra vitamin D in their lives. We also know that it's holiday season, right? Fall is known as holiday season. And I think people really take it as a holiday season. One of my quotes that I like to share with my patients is they are holidays. They're not holiday weeks. They're not holiday months, but we've turned them into that. So there's a lot of that refined food going around, right? So there's, I think, a lot more hyper refined sugar, hyper refined carbohydrates, saturated fat. Some of these things we do know can weaken or compromise gut health balance and ultimately impact that 70% of the immune system that resides in the gut. So I think there's so much that we can do to support gut health and so much that we can all talk about today that we like to share with our patients to help with immune health. But that's my perspective from the gut. I'd love to hear everyone else's perspective and where you're really seeing it from your angle and your specialty.
Yeah, thank you, Dahlia. That's amazing. I really love all of that. And I had a similar experience with, the things you were discussing. And especially around holidays too, like getting sick and stuff. From mine, I kind of want to focus on microbiome diversity, gut microbiome diversity. There is a big correlation between the amount and the diversity of microbes in the gut and how well your immune system is functioning, as well as health and longevity for most people. And the interesting thing about that is, on the other side of this, when we look at people with eating disorders, we see very low microbial diversity in the gut. So one thing that, I've like focused on myself and also work with my patients on focusing on is getting a variety of different foods, trying new foods. There's so many patients that I see that just come in on elimination diets, that cut out foods that, there are food intolerances, food allergies, trigger foods. But a lot of times people will take foods and try it once and say, this food triggered me, and then just completely cut it out and never try it again. So from my perspective, and one thing that has helped me out as well, is just increasing variety of foods, trying different foods, and in turn getting like all of the prebiotics and different types of antioxidants, different types of nutrients from different types of foods, that allows my gut microbiome to be nourished and to be diverse, and really build a good ecosystem and a good immune system.
Yes, so true. I love that you bring that perspective in, that diversity of nutrients is so important. I think we see especially lower diversity during fall. I tend to find, at least with my patients, people are a little bit more keen on eating diversity because they really gravitate towards summer foods, right? Some of that fresh, hydrating melons and berries and tomatoes and lettuce and citrus. So a lot of these things that are available in summer, people, their palates really enjoy them. They're hydrating, they're crisp, they're cold. I tend to find, I feel like people aren't, one, as familiar with diversity of plants when it comes to fall. A lot of the times my patients will say, the squash that I eat in fall is like stuffed pumpkin and stuff, or maybe butternut squash. And we'll talk about kabocha squash or delicata squash or acorn squash, or, the dozens and dozens of squash that they can be eating, and different cruciferous vegetables that are a little bit more bitter that the palate might not be acclimated to, or that might be causing GI distress because of that microbiome imbalance that they're already coming in with. So I love that you bring that up, that lack of diversity is something you're seeing, and we might even be seeing that to a higher degree at this time of the year.
And I want to touch on that too, because diversity, it's this idea that we're stronger together, right? It's this idea that the more perspectives you have, the more you can account for. And that is so true in our body. Like when we're talking about microbes, the different strains and subtypes you have, the stronger this population is, the more genetic variance there is. It's true with us, and it's true with our microbes. It's kind of, I know this is kind of gross, but with Game of Thrones being so popular, this idea of like, that's why you don't marry your cousin or your brother or sister. You want that genetic diversity, otherwise bad things will happen, right? That's why it's like you seek out others to marry and procreate with, versus like the Game of Thrones stuff that's going on. It's like this idea of like marrying your cousin or something. So for any of the Game of Thrones fans out there, what's the new one? House of Dragons is like the new show. But it's this idea that you want this diversity, and it's so cool because I know I've said this before, and maybe other lives we've done, but the idea that your food has DNA, right? Your food has genetic diversity. And if you're not getting the various types of DNA from your food, you're just really doing yourself and your gut, and therefore your immune system, a disservice, right? You're limiting that genetic material that your microbes and even your virome get to play with and help you become stronger. I know this is like, I guarantee this is not well known. Like not a lot of people out there go like, oh yeah, let me eat some different DNA and help my virome. It's like, that's not mainstream, but we need to make that mainstream. Hopefully it will be one day soon. And it's like, it's just something very, very important to talk about and to like, just, I don't know, explore. It's just so cool. I think it's so cool, but yeah.
Yeah. And we'd love to hear from your perspectives as far as, metabolic patients or cancer patients as well, and just different female patients that you've been working with, Katie and Vicki.
I just wanted to continue on what James said, and the diversity of population in the gut. And I always mention to my clients who keep asking me, oh, what about probiotics? Which type of probiotics I should take to strengthen my immune system, especially with my diabetic patients? So diversity of population, definitely, but let's feed them, because hungry population will not function as well as the one that was fed in the right way, right? So prebiotic types of foods, right? All that resistant starch and high fiber carbohydrates, right? Nothing to be afraid of. It just has to be eaten at reasonable amount. And again, it has to be a variety of those things, not just brown rice every day, not just a sweet potato every day, but let's put some of those. And they are those, even for my patients, when they combine them in the right way with lots of low glycemic vegetables like greens, cabbage, cruciferous vegetables, and some protein, those carbs, they don't really change their blood sugar response too much. It still stays within acceptable ranges. So for diabetic patients whose immune system tend to be more compromised, that's what I would recommend. Definitely not to go on those. If there is a party, then maybe to kind of party-proof yourself, bring your own veggies with you, and that's fine. Or maybe ask the host prior to the party, oh, what can I bring anything, and kind of party-proof yourself and your health that way, not to make yourself more susceptible.
Vicki, I'd love to hear from you, as you mentioned something interesting that I don't think a lot of people realize, is that someone with diabetes and metabolic disease might have a more compromised immune system. I'd love to hear from you on why some of those reasons might be.
Yeah, I guess it's always easier to explain it with graphics, but just in a nutshell, so when insulin signaling declines, right, and that's what we see with insulin resistance and with diabetes, the inflammatory response increases because the function of certain white blood cells, macrophages, one of those types, right, declines, right, because there is this chronic inflammatory state that's happening in the body. So that's one of the reasons why immune system can be more compromised, especially if we're not controlling the blood sugar really well, or in some patients, until they get to critical lab levels with their hemoglobin A1C, or some of the things that are not being tested unless we see those in critical ranges. So even with steady insulin resistance that has been undiagnosed, we may see also impaired immune response. Did I answer your question, Dahlia?
Yeah, so interesting, and something so important for people to really understand of your risk factors, how to decrease risk for some of these diseases, and then if you are living with them, what you can do. And Katie, we do know also that within the cancer population, the immune system is often spoken about, right? Because it's suppressed after being overactive. We'd love to hear your perspective on what you're seeing at this time of the year with your population, and just hear more of your spin on this.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dahlia. Like you said, the cancer population, when they're undergoing treatment, their immune system is impaired. And so trying to stay well and get through their treatments is a big portion of their care. And especially living in colder climates like myself, you can already see it's dark outside in Chicago. People are starting to sort of get together a lot more, and thus viruses, illnesses can spread. But in terms of cancer patients, and I think this can really go for anybody who is under the weather or who is feeling ill, is setting yourself up for success. And the way that you can do that is, one of my favorite tips right now is start batch cooking and freezing certain things so that when your appetite is really low or your energy is really low from cancer treatment or from just being sick, you have things already prepared that are health promoting and nourishing, that you don't have to take an hour or 30 minutes in the kitchen. Or if your kids are screaming because they don't feel good, you already have stuff ready to go that you know is going to be nourishing. Soups are a really easy way to do that. I just had black bean soup for dinner tonight, and you can save that stuff for later on. But even smoothies. Smoothies are a really great way to pack in tons of nutrients, as well as make little individual packets that you can have for quick grab and go meals, or even make popsicles out of them. I love doing that, especially for some cancer patients who may have sore throats or sores in their mouths. Those little cooling things that they can add can be really beneficial too.
I love that. I know Dahlia's all about soup season for sure. We're calling
It's
I know we're
always
all
soup
about like
season
gut. I
for
know it's
me.
always soup season for Dahlia, but like gut nurture season is really winter and just these warm foods, like even a potato leek soup where again that resistant starch and those healthy carbohydrates, and just so it's just like a nice internal hug for your gut and your immune system. It's so nice. So yeah, soups are definitely a go-to. I love that. Something we just did actually before this live was a nap. I also have to say, we took a nap and it was amazing. It felt amazing. Like it's kind of just preparing, but also giving into what your body's feeling. And kind of when you are in that preparation, that preventative mindset, it is just being closer to your body and like, what is my body saying? Like, what am I really hungry for? Or what am I feeling? And versus, like Dahlia and I, we have pretty busy days, and versus, we're not really big on caffeine. Pretty much the caffeine we drink is maybe from a matcha once in a while, maybe from kombucha here and there, but we really don't do caffeine. Instead, we just do vitamin sleep, right? And what's really cool, something we were discussing even as before this live, was the idea that, there's a lot of people out there when you're feeling tired in the afternoon, you're reaching for that coffee, right? But what's happening when you're napping is maybe we do have stress hormones. Maybe there's a lot going on. And in that nap, you're not just resting. Your body is still very, very much active and working. You're processing those stress hormones. Your gut is moving in a different way. It is that rest and digest phase. You're recycling and maybe excreting certain toxins. And again, those stress hormones that you were feeling. So you wake up from the nap, maybe a little bit like, whoa, that felt good, but I'm still a little sleepy because your body was kind of resting and working at the same time. And I think in a much more productive way than versus just kind of sipping on some caffeine and keep chugging along, right? You're kind of prolonging this rest. And if you keep prolonging that rest, then it's going to hit you, whether that's a cold, whether that's the flu, whether that's something, your body's going to force you to rest eventually. So very, very cool.
And go ahead, Vicki.
No, I just wanted to add maybe another tip for someone who may be watching us right now. I was attending a webinar yesterday, and our speaker, and we all know that vitamin D is essential for the immune system functioning, right? We've seen it through the reports during COVID that people who didn't have enough of vitamin D, they did suffer more complications. So people who may have accumulated more weight around their midsection, that tends to, and research shows it, and I'm looking at the article right now in Medical News Today as well, that belly fat linked to lower vitamin D. So it's essential to ask your doctor to test your vitamin D and see if you're within optimal levels, not just below clinical range, but optimal levels, which could be anything from 60 to 100.
That vitamin D, I think I gotta see a recent study, like 2021 was like 30% of the if not 30+%, was below vitamin D recommendations. So that's huge. And we're talking about vitamin D with immune health, but also just bone health. And I mean, we're talking about vitamin D helping with calcium absorption and everything. And so our population is definitely more plant-based. So if you're low in vitamin D, And then you're wondering, like, where am I going to get my calcium? Or should I be supplementing calcium? It's like, well, first and foremost, your vitamin D needs to be up to par, because even when you get that calcium in, it's not going to be able to be best used, right, properly. So many factors.
But even considering that study showing 30 plus, I think it's, some even say up to 70% of people are suboptimal vitamin D. You also have to understand that if it was 30+%, they're also going off of just, normal standard ranges and not necessarily optimal. Vicky mentioned between 60 and 100 tends to show optimal immune function, optimal, bone health, optimal hormone health with vitamin D. So usually when labs are testing vitamin D, you'll see if you're at least 30, you're normal. But that doesn't necessarily mean optimal. So that's also something to factor in as well with, some of these studies that come out, or what are their parameters for measuring vitamin D? And are you below normal? Are you normal, or are you optimal? And if not, how can we get you there? Something so important to consider. So, we talked about why people might be even lower in vitamin D than usual in the fall. And I think people might just not be on a regular basis taking vitamin D. I think depending on the person, especially James was mentioning someone on a predominantly or fully plant-based diet, you should be taking vitamin D anyways. I usually will recommend at least 1,000 IUs all year during the sunnier months, and at least 2,000 IUs in the darker winter months. And then if you're someone like me who has just more melanin, more pigment to my skin, I take a higher amount than that. So most people should be at baseline having vitamin D in their life. And then during these times when there's less vitamin D out externally, being very conscious to replete it internally. And we do know, especially if you are plant-based, vitamin D is not as abundant in the diet. So you're going to acquire it from things like mushrooms. I think I've mentioned in one of our lives before that there was a really cool study that I read that showed that just like we can absorb vitamin D from the sun, mushrooms can do the same, and they can absorb vitamin D from UV rays. So if you turn them upside down and you expose their gills to the sun, they'll actually enhance the vitamin D that they do have. So that's a cool source. If you want to let your mushrooms kind of sunbathe before you eat them, you can get more vitamin D. That could be a nice little supplement for you.
Or sunbathe with your mushrooms, like just be outside with your mushrooms.
Totally
down. Get some
Bring
sun.
your mushrooms to the beach in California. Right?
Bring your mushrooms to the beach. We got to start that movement.
Yes. Let's see your mushrooms at the beach. But that could be a source for you, or, fortified food. So this might be your call. If you're listening to this, this might be your call to action to go have your care team check your vitamin D levels, see if you're sufficient, see if you're normal, see if you're optimal, and see how we can get you there. And I think you bring up a good point, Vicky, mentioning nutrients, because when we're talking about the immune system and nutrients that support it, vitamin D certainly is involved. We also see zinc and vitamin C, not calcium. Vitamin C and zinc also are very important to the immune function. So I'd love to hear all of your takes on where people can get vitamin C, why they might have less vitamin C in the fall, and zinc as well, and what you're seeing in your populations.
I have a prescription for my patients. I'm just asking them at least half cup of blueberries a day, because mostly it's doable for everyone. And I haven't seen one single patient telling me, I hate blueberries, or I'm not going to do it. So some patients I love my blueberries. I didn't know it could be, it could actually satisfy that sweet tooth. So I don't know. I kind of have that tip. Yeah. For my, and also, antioxidants, right, in the blueberries as well. So.
Love that.
Yeah. And one of my favorites as well is even bell peppers have a lot of vitamin C. So you normally think citrus, oranges, but even bell peppers and broccoli have a lot of vitamin C. I will say if you put them, cooking them with liquid, that liquid will also kind of pull the vitamin C out. So making sure that if you're having stew or soup, drink that broth that has the vitamin C in it from those bell peppers or your vegetables. So that will be really beneficial for you too.
Yeah, I got to say, I love seeing at the farmer's market passion fruit. Passion fruit's still there. That is man, I mean, you can literally taste the vitamin C. It's so sour, woo, but it has such a floral, aromatic, I mean, the polyphenols in and passion fruit are like off the charts. It's so great. So we'll like throw that in a smoothie, put it even on top of yogurt, and just get that extra like nice sour taste. Even if you're throwing like blueberries in the yogurt and things like that, it's just a nice tartness and getting all that vitamin C, which is great.
And something in season right now, actually, at least here in California on the West Coast, as we're transitioning from summer to fall, is guava.
Yeah,
So
I was just gonna say that.
Pineapple guavas there in my neighborhoods. I can just
Love
go
it.
and pick them up.
Vicky has vitamin C supplements just growing on trees. But,
Yeah.
you know, we do know about one medium orange contains 60 to 85 milligrams of vitamin C. We do know one medium guava contains 200 plus milligrams of vitamin C. So that could be as much as 4 times more vitamin C than an orange. Katie mentioned bell peppers as well. Half a cup also contains about double to triple the amount of vitamin C that oranges do. So oranges had a really good PR person when it comes to promoting vitamin C. I'm not discounting them. They have vitamin C, but there's so much more that's out there.
And now that Katie said bell peppers, I'm thinking if you dip those bell peppers in hummus, you get some zinc with your chickpeas, right?
Look at that. Love those synergistic combos.
Marry those two.
Marry those two. Marry to health. And someone's saying, Michael's saying, my favorite food fact is bell peppers have more vitamin C than oranges. Yeah. So, you know, we're starting to really learn more about some of these other foods and where we can get more vitamin C. So maybe you have some favorite sources in the summer, like papaya or strawberries or bell peppers or, you know, some of these citrus fruits. Buy them in bulk. I'm all about freezing things. Katie mentioned freezing soups. You can also freeze these favorite summer produce, and you can have them during the fall. So that way you're having frozen papaya that has great vitamin C. You're adding that to your smoothie. You're cooking those frozen bell peppers that might not be seasonal right now, but you've purchased them or you purchased them frozen. So that could always be a great option.
Yeah, I love I love all of these options. Passion fruit is probably my favorite too. You could just literally I love the taste, but plus like it just feels like you're just getting that vitamin C like straight to your straight to your gut. Also, another source that I really like that people might not know a lot about is herbs. A lot of herbs, like parsley's one that contains a lot of vitamin C. So I also encourage a lot of patients to cook with a lot of herbs and just, try different ones and, put as much as you want.
Yeah, and the antioxidant, like I always forget the step, but they come out with like an antioxidant index. It's always like this review and they update it and it's like dried herbs are always
ORAC, right? That's what they call that chart. Yeah.
I believe so. Yeah. And it's always dried herbs are like in the top and it's just, they're so concentrated. You dry them and you just concentrate those herbs and they're just so powerful. So yeah, I mean, herbs and spices, I think a lot of people forget, including diversity. Like when we're talking about diversity, like different herbs and spices you're eating, count those as part of your different plants you're eating as part of that diversity. Like that counts. If you're adding more of these herbs and spices to any recipe, even if the recipe doesn't call for it and you think like, let me experiment, let me just add more of this or a little bit of that, it adds up. And you get in that habit and that routine, and whether it's more vitamin C, just overall more antioxidants and just that variety, it's huge. It makes a huge difference.
Joseph, you just inspired me to go buy some parsley and make tabbouleh with fresh mint, fresh parsley, onions. Yeah, that's the immune recipe right there.
Yeah, and a lot of herbs too are also antiparasitic, antiviral, antimicrobial. So a lot of these concentrated herbs are also very powerful in like either supporting you when you get sick or helping get rid of some of that bacterial load or viral load.
We have some parsley still going strong in the garden. I hope it can last. I don't know if it does well in the winter in Southern California, but I hope it does. We'll see. But yeah, I love that. Yeah, those bitters, right? You're getting those bitter foods in. Parsley is definitely a very pungent and strong flavor, but delicious, especially in some tabbouleh. It's wonderful. But yeah, those bitters, those very aromatic and and pungent herbs and plants will have the antimicrobial effect for sure, balancing.
I love it. So we've covered vitamin D, vitamin C, antioxidants. I'd love to talk about some of your favorite food sources of zinc, because we see this in the gut population, that zinc might be something that's lower in abundance, and that can compromise gut health and gut lining and gut barrier integrity. But we also know zinc can be so preventive for the immune system as well. So if you do feel something coming on, strong evidence has shown that high dose of zinc can really help kind of support and bolster your immune function. So I'd love to hear some of your favorite ways that you're getting in zinc, especially in the fall.
I made Ukrainian borscht today, which is a beet soup, and I just put a bunch of lentils in there, sprouted lentils, which is non-traditional, but that's my way of keeping my, my zinc levels up, being plant-based. So yeah.
Love it.
I think one that, sorry, Katie.
No, go for it.
One that Vicky mentioned earlier, chickpeas. I just love them because they're so diverse. You could even like make chickpea salad, or even just mash it up and like put it on toast. Like I used to do that as like an alternative to, like, sometimes I would use peanut butter on toast. Sometimes I would use chickpeas, like mashed up chickpeas on toast. I just love the texture and the diversity of it.
Joseph, you're my inspiration today. I can imagine chickpeas mixed with some mushrooms and walnuts and make a pate for toasts. Yeah.
I'm hungry.
Katie, what are some of your favorite zinc sources?
I was going to say, speaking of toast, one of my favorite things is just whole grains. So like whole wheat toast, even with some nut butter. Nuts are also great sources of zinc. So spread some nut butter on that whole wheat toast, add some fruit on top for your antioxidants and vitamin C, and there you go.
There you go. So you get several sources stacked on top of one another. If you want to really top it off, add some seeds on top too. So we know hemp seeds, chia seeds, flax seeds, all great sources of zinc. So if you find that you and your family are struggling, these can be great ways to get these things in. These can be all year round. So we hope that this has been some of the inspiration that you needed to really support your immune system and really help protect you at this time of the year. We do know, things are going around right now. And so protecting your family is going to be really important. We recently got sick. Actually, Layla and I, James didn't get it. And so to me, it showed me like, okay, I haven't been sleeping as much as I really should be. So
I've been getting more vitamin sleep.
Yes, James is really good at taking his vitamin sleep. And so it showed me that. And it showed me also that I am so excited, because when I used to get sick, it was not just a quick, 5-day thing. I would get sick for a week and be very sick. And then I would cough for 2 to 3 weeks after that. So much so that one time when I was a teenager, I coughed so hard, I bruised my lungs. So I used to get this just terrible cough, and that hasn't been happening to me the last couple of years. And I really do think nutrition is a testament to that, of just knowing how to take care of my body between illnesses while I'm sick, and really just I'm learning to lean into it more and say, okay, my system is getting an update, and this will be a nice reboot for it. And I'm strengthening my immune system. So lots of rest, lots of liquids Layla and I were having. So lots and lots of tea, lots of these foods that we were mentioning here, vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc-rich foods. And then, Vicky and I were talking earlier about other interesting things that can be helpful as well. So some of these other foods that have antioxidant compounds. And Vicky, you were mentioning that garlic is one of those. And garlic can be used in so many ways, whether you're using it fresh and chopping that up. You can put it in tea. James and I have a video on our YouTube called Immunity, and it has fresh garlic in the tea. So you can
Okay.
always do something
It's
like
delicious.
that. Yeah.
Wow.
It's very good.
I'm just struggling to give it to kids, so to my
Yeah, that's
child.
why
So I
it's not
have no idea
delicious.
how to do it. Yes.
Maybe not.
I mean,
maybe
if you
not
really
too
love
much.
garlic, it's delicious. Yeah, but it's definitely not a
In a broth, maybe,
broth
instead of
would
a
be
tea
probably,
to a child. So they might sip on a miso broth with garlic in it. But garlic can be used in different ways. I was saying, there's some evidence that shows also topically. So I had an earache when I got sick. My sinuses were very stuffed. And so it caused ear pressure for me. And I put garlic drops in my ear and that took it away pretty quickly. So there are a lot of these other foods and other compounds that can also support the immune system. There's interesting evidence also that supporting your liver when you're sick is important because your liver is a huge source of your immune system and a huge supporter. So certain liver supporting things, you can ask your care team about
Turmeric.
things. Yeah, turmeric, ginger, and acetylcysteine, different amino acids, vitamins, and minerals.
And as we're closing out, I want to see we have quite a few questions coming in, so I want to get to some on topic but off topic a little bit, but it's all good. I think we can even bring it back. But I want to see one coming in. Hey, is roasted peanuts and fresh baby carrots a good snack for after workout? And I bring that up because we were talking about nuts and seeds and really zinc. I mean, when it comes to like legumes, nuts, and seeds, if you're eating those, you're getting great sources of zinc. But even the idea of working out, right? So this idea, and I'll let anyone else take it from here, but even if you are working out hard in the winter, that's another form of stress on your body. So even more so if you're an athlete, if you're working out during the cold winter months and you're wondering like, what the heck do I eat after? Definitely being mindful and conscious of that, because working out is another stress. You are breaking down your muscle tissue, you're breaking down your body to build it back stronger. But if you're not eating the right foods, you might not build it back stronger. You might be stressed from other areas of your life, and then working out can just add to that. And then you get a little cold or you're not feeling too well. So yeah, I mean, after workout, you can eat nuts and carrots. That's great. Definitely getting that protein. Love legumes after workout. So whether it is chickpeas or chickpea frittata or lentils, which is a little more higher protein, but you're still getting that synergistic effect, right? With zinc, you're getting wonderful fiber, you're getting these great amino acids, you're getting much more than just a big slab of steak or something where you're getting that protein, but you're getting some other great gut healing, immunity healing, as well as muscle healing nutrients in things like legumes and nuts and seeds, which is great. Do you guys have anything to say about working out during the cold months and things to eat after?
I would say definitely when it comes to working out, sort of that post-workout, you want to make sure that you have a good source of carbohydrate and protein to help refuel your muscles and to help prevent any sort of muscle breakdown. And kind of linking it back to what James said about stress and working out being another form of stress. And illness is another form of stress. So if you find yourself that you're sick, you're feeling under the weather, you may also notice that your appetite has increased. And a lot of people, when they're sick in the hospital as dietitians, typically they have higher calorie needs and higher protein needs. So really focusing on making sure that even if you're not that hungry, your body's working very hard. So trying your best to get in those meals and really focus on getting a good source of protein. So even when you work out and when you're sick, that protein is really important.
So we talked about soups that could be, even in the colder months, a good post-workout. I really like smoothies. So that could be another great source of carbs and protein in there. So you can add in some of these rich zinc sources like pumpkin seeds, hemp seeds. You can do beans in your smoothie if you want. You can do silken tofu for protein along with your fruit and some of your high antioxidant vegetables. So that for me tends to be a great option post-workout.
All right, some more questions. This one's interesting. What do y'all think about using locally harvested honey to combat the oncoming allergy season? Interesting. What do you guys think?
I think this kind of links to the talk of like diversity and getting different microbes and stuff, and getting locally harvested honey and getting some of those microbes that are out in the environment into your body, you're essentially kind of like weaving yourself closer into the environment, and your immune system and your gut kind of gets more more familiar with it. So
Like
yeah,
primed, like
yeah,
is the word coming to mind? Like you're priming your body with some of that exposure a
yeah,
little bit.
yeah, because it reminds me of, like, when we used to live in villages and we used to like drink stream from everyone used to drink from the same stream. The stream had a microbiome, like everything in that village had its own microbiome. So yeah, the locally harvested honey is just kind of reminds me of that, where you're kind of integrating yourself more into the environment.
It's interesting because a lot of the times people are reacting when they do have allergies to the pollen. And so that is where that priming comes from, where it's kind of in micro doses exposing your immune system to this pollen. So that way you're able to become familiar with it and you're not then having this overt reaction to things. I definitely think it's whatever one's comfortable. I know if somebody's an ethical vegan, they're not necessarily going to be having honey, but if not, it is an interesting source of another, like you're saying, a microbiome of a plant, and then also diversity of pollen. So you're having just that exposure. Someone does tend to have severe histamine reactions, which a lot of my patients might. This might be something that they can work very low and slow with, because they might have a significant histamine reaction. So some of my patients are more low, moderate histamine intake. And then they might also, at this time of the year when things are blooming, things are falling off the trees, there's a little bit more dust and pollen and other environmental factors in the air. This is when they might be supporting their immune system a little bit more. They might be eating foods that are rich in DAO, diamine oxidase, and that's that enzyme that breaks down histamine. So they might be eating more things like pea shoots or pea sprouts to help with that histamine that's in their environment. They might be having lentil sprouts or holy basil tea. So if you are someone who's saying, I don't necessarily want to get that from honey, maybe for metabolic reasons or for ethical reasons, you can always consider trying some of these other sources or other plants that are out there as well. That was a great question. Vicky, do you have anything to add about that?
Well, coming from my specialty, I'm going to tell that I would be careful with the amount of honey that would be eaten, because it will turn it's fructose, right? Honey is fructose. So someone who is dealing with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, or someone who is wearing their continuous glucose monitoring, I would first see how does my blood sugar react if I have a teaspoon of honey, right? And if you do decide to have that honey, I would not mix it into the tea and drink it as a liquid. I would probably put it on a toast with some peanut butter, so have some protein and fat with it, so the glucose level will be more stable with that. But I think local honey, and what Joseph said, is probably a better honey to choose than some other honey. I don't know. Manuka honey had some studies done as well, and I heard that people do see benefits from like that high number on Manuka honey. But again, it's so expensive. I'm not set on that science yet myself. I just didn't read enough about it.
Yeah. I'll probably say, the last thing I'll focus on is local and just the quality, really. If you are, I agree a little bit, if you are going to have it, and then the quality, because it really does speak to the health of the hive, the health of the environment where the bees are getting that honey, how you're sourcing that honey, and then realizing that most of the honey you're eating, let's say in Honey Nut Cheerios or like honey in the store, is not actual honey. It's like cut with a simple syrup. So you're not actually getting 100% honey. You're not actually getting that local honey. It's also been highly pasteurized. So a lot of the living microbes in there have been kind of heated off and died. So it's really understanding where you're getting your honey, the health of that honey, the quality of that honey to get all of these beneficial effects. But
and know where they can come from if you don't eat honey.
Right. Yep.
And don't give it to the children under 12 months.
Yeah.
Yes.
The risk factors in honey. It's not all
Yes.
it's not all sweet stuff.
Love
I think one of the
this.
last questions we're seeing, What winter vegetables can we freeze for smoothie use? Interesting.
I actually had a patient today who was interesting. We're dealing with some picky eating and some difficulty with trying new vegetables. And they started adding cauliflower to their smoothies, like frozen riced cauliflower, as a great way to get in something new without sort of trying and testing that pickiness. And they said they couldn't tell that cauliflower was in there, and then they can just add to the diversity of nutrients that they're getting in the day without really having to sort of test that pickiness in that moment.
Very cool.
Love that. Kind of just flawlessly blends in with the rest of the fruit and the other things that are in there.
Yeah, my 5-year-old, he just has hard time eating squashes and pumpkins, so I steam it and then I freeze those pieces and I put it in his smoothies. So that's what I do.
And that would be great with butternut squash, with acorn squash, with any of these different squashes.
Kabocha
Pumpkin,
is
right?
good too, right?
Oh,
Kabocha. You can make a nice pumpkin spice if you're feeling extra. Love that. And then others that we like doing in our house, yes, zucchini. And I see, Michael, the person who asked this question, also says they've tried zucchini. I love that as kind of just also a low waste hack of, if your zucchini looks sad, if I'm not going to cook this zucchini in my fridge and it is borderline getting slimy, cut it up and freeze it, and you can pull it out for smoothies. So just like cauliflower rice that Katie's patient did, Vicky's doing that with squash for her son. Zucchini, cucumbers, you can do the same. And as far as what's available in the winter, I like doing micro sprouts. Micro sprouts are available all year long, but sprouts, speaking of antioxidants and supporting the immune system, sprouts can often be more concentrated in antioxidants than the whole grown food. So I really like also, whether that's fresh or even frozen, if I know I'm not going to eat the sprouts, I'll freeze them and then they end up going into smoothies as well. So all those can be great little things that you're sneaking in. One of my other favorites is beets. I know some of my patients are like, beets taste like dirt. Let's be real. I love them. I love the taste, but some of my patients are like, I can't do beets.
Tastes like sweet dirt.
Yeah, sweet dirt. I like it.
It's a great source of nitric oxide, right?
Great.
It helps our blood vessels to be healthier. So I would definitely not disregard the beets. And I would add one more thing now that we're in season of pomegranates.
Yes.
So pomegranates are very high on the antioxidant scale, James, the one that you were talking about. And I heard a couple of specialists, including Dr. Hyman, talking about that it's very rich in Akkermansia. Dahlia, that's probably your area, right? Yeah, so definitely pomegranates should be, I think, maybe every other day if possible.
And Akkermansia, for those who don't know, is a species of microbes in the gut, and they're actually heavily involved with producing butyrate. Butyrate is a byproduct of some of this bacterial fermentation when you eat fiber. And butyrate is extremely important to gut lining integrity. So if you are someone worried about leaky gut, if you are someone also who has eczema or other skin issues, these Akkermansia-rich microbes that can be boosted with certain foods, they can certainly help with repairing the skin, repairing the lining in the gut as well, because we do know the gut is made out of skin. So love pomegranates. A tip that I like to give with pomegranates to my patients as well is, now that they're in season, buy them in bulk. Buy a nice case of pomegranates and peel them and keep that frozen to use throughout the year. Because if you try buying pomegranates in the spring or summer, they are super expensive. So you can always spend some time, watch a nice show, and spend some time peeling pomegranates. So love that, Vicky. I love that you brought that up. Great. And we have one last question. Vicky, this is for you.
How can liquid combined with honey react differently than when put on toast?
Okay, so sweet liquid, they are very fastly absorbed, and it will not go through our digestive system in the way that the toast with peanut butter and honey will, right? Because there will be some fiber in that toast. Hopefully it's not a French baguette, and hopefully it's going to be like Ezekiel. Oh goodness, yeah, Wonder Bread is a whole other rabbit hole. But hopefully it's going to be easy keel bread, or hopefully it's going to be like a sprouted tortilla, right? Which will have fiber and will have protein. So our digestion will approach it in a very slow and I would say, I don't know, step-by-step process versus just a sweet liquid. I think it was actually featured in one of the movies, I think, like one of those, I can't remember, where we were discussing like how Coca-Cola affects, right? All that sugar affects our system. And it just goes, it will trigger very fast insulin production, which I think it could be overwhelming also to the system in general, especially for someone who is already maybe entering that circle of seeing that there is some extra weight has been accumulated, maybe the body is metabolically not strong enough to process that. I would say that tea with honey for someone who is 20-year-old and healthy is probably safer than someone who is 45 plus and has some extra weight issues going on, and there are concerns. So eating something sweet and chewing it with other foods is always better than drinking it.
Thank you.
Love it.
All right. I'd love to do our rapid fire, just last tips, your favorite tips and what you're doing, what you're making sure your family's doing to just keep your gut, your metabolic system, your immune system. How are you keeping yourself, your family healthy? I'd love to hear your last tips that you have to leave people with.
So I mean, hashtag mushroom sunbathing. I think it's why James gonna get sick when everyone else has been sunbathing with those mushrooms.
That's a new
Napping
TikTok
with them,
trend.
in
We got to make
fact.
it happen. Mushroom sunbath.
Mushroom nap.
Mushroom nap. Ooh, 2 for 1.
And in addition to that, I'll go back to it. Herbs. I just don't think. I mean, I do know people use herbs, but I just think they're very underappreciated, underused. So just whatever you're having, try some herbs on it. Even like the chickpea toast, right? I used to put some like oregano, try different types of herbs on there. Like whatever you're having, I think you can find some herbs that might go with it that make it taste even better.
Shout out to herbs. Love it.
I would say for me, Vicky, go ahead.
Katie. No, you go ahead. No.
I would say for me, one thing that James brought up is rest. Really take time. And if you're feeling a little bit tired, that's normal this time of year. Really take that moment to, if you need a nap, take a nap, go to bed a little bit earlier. And then also prep. So if you're already in the kitchen cooking, make a little bit extra, make an extra serving or two, just so that you can stock up your freezer over time this season so that you always have nourishing meals whenever you need them.
Love that.
Yes. So what I do, I always go back to my roots, to my Ukrainian grandma cooking. And in Ukraine, we eat a lot of buckwheat during winter. And buckwheat contains something that's called rutin. And that substance, it's anti-inflammatory, it helps immune system as well. Again, a moderate amount, like half cup or a cup, maybe a cup per meal, because again, it's also a carb for someone who may be having some, insulin resistant issues. I give elderberry syrup to my son, and even though our pediatrician, she endorsed it, she's like, just keep giving him elderberry through the winter time. Because with kids, it's a little harder to do diversity. We do a lot of sauerkraut as well. And my 5-year-old, he loves it. I guess it's kind of genetically passed on. Thankfully, we do a lot of beets, like Ukrainian borscht, which is full of cabbage, beets, onions, carrots. So that's pretty much like every other week we would make that soup. Lots of soups too, with coconut milk, with turmeric, Indian spices. So wherever I can put ginger and turmeric, I would put it there. Yeah.
Love it. I
Love
can't tell
it.
you how good a nice cream of buckwheat is. It's so good in the
Mm.
morning. Make a nice cream of buckwheat.
What's
Yeah,
your
that's
favorite,
like
Jane?
yeah.
Yeah.
What's your favorite? What
Mine.
have you
Oh,
been
yeah. I'm
doing?
gonna go with
Except sleeping.
yeah, sleeping. I mean, yeah, Katie stole mine, so that's okay. No, but no, I've actually been focusing on vitamin D. I've been on my, and Dahlia's really good with it, but she's been helping me with just taking vitamin D. But I was in the summer just running more with my shirt off, getting out there on the trails and like getting that sunlight exposure. I'm still trying to do that with some of the sun we still have, but then, taking my vitamin D supplement. So I'm going with vitamin D and hashtag, yeah, mushroom sunbathing. Like I'm all in on vitamin D. Just that's been, and I've seen the difference. I think I've been focusing on that since summertime, and knock on wood, I haven't gotten the cold. So I've been really on top of my vitamin D.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's mine.
And I think mine is extra hydration. We tend not to notice that we get extra dehydrated in the fall. It's easier to stay hydrated in the summer because we're eating a lot of hydrating foods that have high water content. And that's not necessarily the case in the fall. We're eating more starch and we're not necessarily compensating appropriately. And that's when people will notice, oh, my skin is really dry and my lips are dry and my urine is yellow. So signs your body is telling you you need to hydrate a little bit more when it's going to be more intentional. So I love doing things like teas. I'm always walking around with my emotional support tea tumbler and getting in as much tea as I possibly can. And that could be a nice source of herbs. And, you could do a mushroom latte if you want. So combining some of these things. So lots and lots of hydration is what I recommend. And just like Vicky, probiotics. So eating a lot of probiotic rich foods as well in our home. Layla and I are on a food jag of cashew yogurt at night. So we eat that with our dinner and we add different frozen fruit to it. I put in our gut supporting powder, Gut Nurture, and it has ginger and prebiotic fiber and some antioxidants in it. So that's been something that we've really been enjoying. Our yogurt, we do like a water kefir. We drink kombucha sometimes. We love sauerkraut. We eat a lot of kimchi. So fermented probiotic foods are really, really, really important in our house.
This went long. We usually don't go this long.
Yes.
This was a big topic. This had a lot to it for sure. So thank you all for watching. Thank you to all of our dietitians participating in this. I know a month goes by quick, so we'll be back in a month for another dietitian talk. We're going to be doing a Good Gut Live, and stay tuned on the YouTube for more clips and great content. Yeah, thank you all so much. We hope you all have a wonderful weekend.
Yes, and follow us along. We have our Dietitians of Married to Health page on Instagram. You can follow us on all social channels, and you will see links down below to each dietitian's social media as well. So you can follow along what they're doing in their journeys and their specialties.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Happy Friday. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you soon. As always, heal with each meal. Bye, everyone.
Shabbat shalom. Happy Friday. Bye, guys.